Hello, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally, and today I was going to talk about stuff that we love to scare ourselves out about in terms of pets. But because of everything that's going on, I feel like I'm going to turn that conversation around a little bit. So originally I titled this talk today about, does my pet need all those vaccines and all that other preventive care, and aren't they toxic? And so here's what I want to kind of tell you about that. A lot of that conversation in the internet and in people's conversations are about fear. But you're going to hurt my pet. You know, I think you just want the money and that's all it is. So here's what I want to show you. A bunch of years ago, there was this really hilarious advertisement made for Bridgestone tires, and I just want to show you that ad real quick. Right? So does that not feel like what's going on? We're all like, ah! And then let me say, this isn't an unserious situation, but this is the deal. The United States has officially moved out of a position of being able to contain the virus into one of mitigation. So what does that mean? So to mitigate means to, make it not as bad as it could be. And that's kind of what I want you to have some information about. And I'm going to circle back about how this pertains to actually being a veterinarian and how you can help your pets and things of that nature. But I think this is important for you to understand. So mitigation means not getting exposed to it. And if you are, taking appropriate action. And so one of the most important things that you can do in terms of mitigation is, if you have to go out, if your work has not started saying, okay, you can stay home and, work from home, and there is a ton of that starting to go on, which I think is a great thing. So if you've not had that happen to start with, one of the most important things you can do is wash your hands. And so a lot of people have been talking about, okay, wash your hands and sing the happy birthday song. And I'd like to give you a little spin on that. I've seen this, several other people post this, and I think it's very clever. If you ever read the Dune books by Frank Herbert, you're familiar with the Bene Gesserit Order of Witches, which is a whole nother bag of wax. But one of the things they do is use the Bene Gesserit litany against fear. So somebody had this very, very clever thing. And this is the litany against fear. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So I have to tell you that I can't remember the whole thing without reading it sometimes anymore, but when I've been in a really frightening situation, like I'm getting ready to go have surgery because I've got an appendix and, that's fixing to rupture and all that good stuff, that's the thing that I'm saying in my head, because it focuses me on, okay, yep, I'm afraid, but I can't let it win, because if I do that, then it's going to be that much worse. So one time when I was not able to do that is when I had to walk into a hospital emergency room and say, I'm having chest pain. And I have to tell you that people move so fast, it scared me to death. And I was bawling. And it took me a full 5 minutes to get it together and calm myself down. And I could hear the nurses saying, oh, it's okay, because my heart, I can hear it on the monitor just going, grrr. And the nurse is saying, okay, she's getting herself calmed down. And at that time, Mary Jo was able to come back and be with me and help me just chill, right? So this is really useful. And part of the reason I'm saying that is that's where, okay, let's take a deep breath and acknowledge that we're afraid and we're not sure what to do, because I think really you don't have enough real information to know what to do. So I'm going to show you a couple of resources you can look at that aren't going to be so scary. And one of them is the, if you've not found this already, Johns Hopkins Hospital has put together this map, basically, that shows you where the hotspots are, how many cases there are, how many deaths there are. So I've been kind of checking on this just because it's of interest to me, and also, you know, gosh, what do we do here? So there's just shy of 175,000 cases worldwide today. Maybe there's a whole lot more and China isn't telling us the truth. But this is what I want you to understand. How many, almost 1 billion people in China, and there's 81,000 reported cases? Okay, maybe it's not the truth. So here's something that I think is a good comparison. So Italy and South Korea have roughly the same population, and they started experiencing cases about the same time. Now, what happened in Italy was people just sort of said, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll worry about it if it gets to be a problem. And in South Korea, they started testing and testing and testing and testing. And this is the difference. There's 25,000 cases in Italy. There's 8,200 in South Korea. If we push this little button, I think this is going to, no, that's not the one. One of these other ones will tell you the number of deaths by country. And actually, it's over here on this one. So this is what's astonishing to me. So in China, they're reporting 81,000 cases of sickness with 3,000, almost 3,100 deaths. In Italy, they're reporting 24,000 cases, 28,000, 25,000, with 1,800 deaths. And then, you know, here's South Korea again, 8,200 cases with 75 deaths. So what's the difference? This, frankly, is where mitigation becomes important. South Korea was accustomed to having to deal with things like the avian flu. So, you know, if you had your temperature spike up, you tested positive, you went home and you isolated yourself. And in Italy, you know, and as in the case of America, people would get put in voluntary quarantine and go to business meetings or go to proms with their daughters. And it's like, golly, guys, what? What are you doing here? So what can you do to mitigate the chances that you or your family will get coronavirus? Stay home. Don't go out to dinner. Don't go out to bars. Don't go out to big parties. You know, almost every event's been canceled already. Wash your hands every time you touch a surface in a public bathroom, in an office, you know, if you have to go shopping to get groceries and things like that. Just limit yourself to the essentials, but wash your hands. Get really good at not doing this accidentally. And, you know, if you gotta, you know, do it with your arm. If you gotta brush your hair, it's something of that nature. Stay home, you know, hang out with your family. The other thing that's important to realize is that what they're not saying is what percentage of the population will get sick with this. And what I was able to sort of suss out is maybe in Italy, 10% of the population has gotten sick. And then they've had, of that 10%, 4% of that number of people have died. So this is the other thing. Out of those almost 25,000 cases, Italy's mortality rate is at 4%, roughly 3.9, something like that. South Korea's is at 0.7, which is, you know, still not great. We don't wish for anyone to get that sick and die, but it's less than the influenza. So this is where we have to start taking responsibility and knowing what we need to do to take care of ourselves. So wash your hands, 20 seconds. That's what the whole happy birthday song is about. That's what the Bene Gesserit prayer is, because you're going to wash almost 100% of any virus and bacteria off of you. By the way, this is how most people get C. diff, from public restrooms where they haven't washed their hands carefully. So wash your hands, stay home, limit your need to go to grocery stores as much as possible. Buy stuff online if you have to. Don't buy 27 packages of toilet paper. There's really still going to be enough. Don't eat out. Don't order in, because, again, people are preparing the food for you and you have no control over how they do or don't feel. If you're sick, stay home. Don't go to work. Don't go to school. Don't infect others. Remember that even if you don't get sick, but you've been exposed, you can still spread the virus to others. So, just exercise some common sense. And I think that that's part of what we've lost the understanding of, is the importance of controlling infectious disease. And frankly, that's why vaccines were invented. We saw what happened with measles outbreaks in the United States and in Europe, because people think that they're evil and a government plot, and then bam, all of a sudden we had measles epidemics. So, having said all of that, why am I telling you all that stuff, and how does that relate to veterinary medicine? What I was going to talk to you about is a young man that I had a consultation with. Beautiful young man, beautiful dog that was 10 years old. And from the records that he sent me from his veterinarian, I could see that the dog had been sick for months. And the veterinarian where he was living just said, we'll just come back in 30 days and we'll retest it and see what's going on. Meanwhile, this dog has had an albumin below 1.4. So to give you a frame of reference why that's important, albumin is a protein that your liver produces because it's able to, and one of its main functions is to keep all of your blood and serum in the blood vessel. When that doesn't happen, you start to get edema and things of this nature, and that's sort of the physical symptoms, but the internal symptoms are worse. So instead of saying, I don't know what's causing this and this is serious, I need to refer you to somebody that can help you better, they just kept telling him to come back. We'll just recheck it in 30 days, and he seems to be hanging in there okay. Long story short, this beautiful young man and his beautiful dog moved to another state, and who knows why, the dog developed profound kidney failure. Now, that's bad stuff, and was it probably because of the other thing that had been going on, which to me likely was some sort of an infectious disease? That's possible. But here's the thing that just breaks my heart about veterinary medicine. What he got told, he dumped some money at a local veterinarian, and to that person's credit, they said, okay, I think you really need to go see a specialist. And so he did. And they said, well, it's, and the numbers were not good. They were, this was marked kidney failure, advanced disease. Well, it's going to cost you $3,000 to hospitalize for your dog for 2 days, and we don't think he'll make it. So, we really think you should euthanize your dog. Here's some fluids. Here's a couple of things you can do to make him comfortable for a day or so while you try to nurse him through. So when I talked with this young man, the dog was not well, but he wasn't ready to go yet. And so we went over several options, and he went back and talked to the veterinarian there, and both at the internal medicine specialty center and the local vet. And they both told him, well, and these are all things he could have done at home, like using a phosphorus reducer, which would have helped with the GI symptoms and made him feel better, and gotten some more subcutaneous fluids to help flush things out, and a few other bits and pieces. So what they told him is, well, you'd have to come back in and pay for another appointment, and we don't think that we would agree with any of those suggestions. So they turned this guy away without doing anything. And, long story short is unfortunately this beautiful dog did die about 5 days later. But it would have been so simple to give this young man some tools to help his dog feel better in the meantime. Now, I want to give you a confession. When I was a young doctor and full of myself, here's the thing that most people don't realize about doctors. We're pretty sure you're going to call us on the fact that we're charlatans and we don't know what we're doing, right? And that's not true. We actually do know what we're doing, but we are driven by fear not to screw up. We are told in the womb, so to speak, in medical school and veterinary school, if you screw up, don't admit it to your client. Call your insurance company so that they can protect you against a malpractice claim. So that's the paradigm I was living in. I was full of fear. I was really pretty sure somebody was going to say, oh, God, you don't know what the hell you're doing, lady. And then one day, a client came into my office, and she had a cat that was very ill, and she was not, she had saved up her shekels to come in. And so this cat had kidney failure, much like this young man's dog. And so I gave her the whole blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 your pet's going to die unless you hospitalize it, and yada, yada, yada. And at that point, $500 was an enormous bill. And so this woman looked at me, and she said, Doctor, I know you're trying to tell me the best information and the best thing that I can do for my cat. And she reached out and touched my arm. And she leaned in and she said, but I can't afford that. Can you help me find a way I can help my cat until we are ready and we are sure that she is ready to go? And that terrified me. That's really what we're afraid of. We're afraid of being exposed in our fear, and our fear being shown to other people. And I got to tell you, that changed radically how I looked at practice. Because I'm supposed to be the good guy, right? I'm supposed to be the person helping you help your pet. And what that made me realize is that, yep, there's plan A and there's plan B. And plan B shouldn't be euthanasia. Plan B should be, okay, maybe this isn't going to be the best way to go, but what can we do to help your pet feel better and see if we can get them through this? I mean, because once upon a time, human medicine, veterinary medicine, we didn't have all these lab tests and things. And the doctor had to actually look at their patient in the eye and said, well, I'm not really quite sure what's going on, but I think this will help. Do you feel the difference in that? So this is where it's hard for you, the pet owner, because you're sitting across some 25-year-old newly minted doctor and they're telling you this is the only way. And so instead of getting pissed and saying, gritting your teeth and walking out of there with nothing to help your pet, take a deep breath, say the Bene Gesserit prayer, let the fear go away for a minute, and then say, Doctor, I know you're trying to help me and my pet, but I can't afford to do that, or I can't agree with that approach. Is there another way that you can help me? I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally. Take good care, stay safe, and try not to get too scared. There's a lot of that going on out there, and we can help slow it down by making different choices about how we behave each day. Take good care. Bye.